If you're just joining us this summer, we are taking hot topics and a lot of your questions. And a lot of your questions had to do with anxiety. So we're going to talk about it. A lot of the issues that I have talked about in the past in my books address this. Get Out of Your Head is the quintessential book if you are struggling with fear or anxiety, depression, in any way, mental health, or just overthinking. It is a really helpful resource. And so I would encourage you to go get Out of Your Head if you haven't read it yet. It will help you bring some order to the chaos of your mind. We have power over our thoughts. And that is a really powerful and helpful truth. However, I'm writing a book now about our feelings and our emotions. That is a very different beast. So when we're talking about anxiety, I want to address it in two parts. I want to talk about our thought lives and I want to talk about our emotional life. Because the way that we are taught in the scriptures to handle each one is just a little bit different. So a lot of your questions had to do with what does Jennie do? What do you do in the moment that you feel anxious? So that's what I really want to address in this episode. And it's super easy to do that because this happens to me at least weekly, sometimes daily, but certainly weekly. I will be hit with anxiety. And let me be clear about what I'm talking about when I say anxiety. Anxiety in my research is not actually an emotion. It's actually a diagnosis. And I think we've been too quick to treat it like it's a feeling. It is a diagnosis. When you have anxiety, it is because fear has actually affected your body, that your body is feeling the effects of fear, that it has moved from a thought or just a feeling to something that has caused your chest to get really tight and to possibly be controlling or to feel like you can't master or cause your body to calm down. That's a panic attack is it your body is escalating and it escalates to a point where it cannot any longer control. And so your breathing picks up and all of a sudden you feels like you can't breathe. That's what a panic attack feels like. And so for some people, they shake. For some people, they rock. You know, you're doing something to try to bring back control of your body. And so I just want to be sure we separate out because sometimes I think we could just call everything to do with fear and worry anxiety. And we're all stressed and we're all feeling fear or worry about lots of different things in our life. So I want to back it up just a little bit and make sure we're using the right feeling words. Welcome to first grade, everybody. We're going to find our words. What are you feeling? Okay, I'll give you a story. This is often how it works for me, is I actually get confronted with a feeling in my body first. And this is so often the case for people. And scientifically, this is how it goes. We usually feel it in our body before we even think a thought. So I will feel my chest get tight. I will notice my teeth are kind of gritted. I will notice that my body, my shoulders are really tense. That's how it expresses itself for me. If I'm really, really anxious, I'll get nauseous. I'll feel sick to my stomach. I'll get kind of what you would think of as butterflies. My mom used to call them. And so those are some of the symptoms for me. Your symptoms may be different. But I'll notice that, of course, right? I'll notice I feel uneasy. I feel like my chest, it's harder to breathe right now. I'll notice my teeth are gritted. And then what do I do? And there's three things that I do. The first thing that I do when this happens, and it happened this week, is I'll have to stop and ask myself, what's wrong? What's wrong? Why do I feel this way? Because I don't always know. And some of you are laughing at that, I know, but most of you aren't because you're the exact same way. I don't always know what's wrong. My life is moving quickly, and there's a lot of parts to my life. There's a lot of people I love. There's a lot of activities that I'm involved in. There's a lot happening. And so I sometimes have to take inventory of my people and my circumstances and go, what is triggering this right now? Because never, not a day in my life, I don't believe, I could be wrong, not a day in my life has that list of circumstances and people all been perfectly well and right. I know, it's just terrible that we live in a fallen world, and in this world we have trouble. I would love a perfect day where not one thing is wrong with anyone or myself or my life. Haven't gotten that day yet. We will in heaven. But right now, it's all pretty complicated. So sometimes it just takes a minute for me to think what is stressing me out. And it's not always the obvious thing. I could have a fire burning in my kitchen, of just in my home, of something that is real, that is just broken and screaming and difficult. And y'all know those things where it's just the thing that is wrong. But that's not the thing bothering me. The thing that's bothering me is that I was cut out of something that I really wanted to be a part of. Or I had a sideways conversation with someone and it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a fire. It wasn't something urgent, 911 in my life, but it's still kind of gnawing at me. A lot of times the small little bitty fire is the thing that actually is causing my anxiety. So I have to name it, and I have to first be able to say, okay, I think what's wrong is this. So first you name it. Second, put it on trial. Don't just assume that it gets all your attention. Don't just assume that it's real. It possibly isn't even real. It's possible that thing is bigger in your mind than it is in reality. And this is where statements that I've talked about in the past come in really handy, like assume the best. If it's a conflict with a friend, assume the best. Really? I mean, unless it was really obvious and that person was obviously disappointed in you, assume she's having a bad day. Assume he's stressed about work. Assume the best about them. Don't make something bigger than it is. Some of you needed to hear that. Don't make something bigger than it is. And it matters so much because I think this is one of the greatest plans of the devil to get in our minds. And I talk about this in Get Out of Your Head, that the enemy has a plan for your mind. Where he lies is in your head. That's how he gets to you, is he plants lies and confusion and chaos in your mind. And the way you fight back is to take the spiritual weapons that God promises us in 2 Corinthians. And he says that we have power to destroy strongholds, that we have authority over our minds. We take captive every thought. Those are all lines of scripture out of 2 Corinthians. So those are all things God has given us authority to fight back against the enemy and the lies that we can tend to believe. And so often one of the ways I think the enemy gets to us is he magnifies things that are small, and things that are big, he shrinks them. And so I think what putting a thought on trial or a fear does is it helps you decide, is this something I need to forget or is this something I need to feel? Sometimes we need to feel our fear. We need to feel our grief. We need to feel our anger. In fact, most of the anxiety in the world has come from this lie that we can't feel our feelings. When you suppress any feeling, anxiety is going to be the way it comes out. That shaky feeling, that unstable feeling, it's because there's suppressed anger, there's suppressed fear, there's suppressed worry. You haven't said it out loud. You haven't even let yourself feel it. And so feeling your emotion, it's interesting. It's a completely different way than our thought life. Our thought life we take captive. We fight back. We tell the truth. But when it comes to our emotions, you see a God who feels deeply. You see people who are given the grace to feel deeply. You see Mary crying at the death of her brother with the God that has the power to raise him forever. And he cries with her. There's grace to feel in the Bible. And because we don't feel that grace in our souls, then we don't feel what we need to feel. But putting that thought and that emotion on trial, you're able to make a decision. Is this valid? Is this worthy of time to feel it? And I would just say, sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes, yes, you haven't let you need the grace to go, I need to feel this. And sometimes you go, you know what? I think I might be making way too much of this. I think it's pretend. And if it's real, even if it's small, it's okay to feel afraid. It's okay to feel mad. It's okay to feel it. So first you name it. Second, you ask, why am I feeling this? Where is this coming from? And what am I going to do with it? And then you decide, what am I going to do with it? Some of you are listening to this and it's not you that feels anxious. It's the person you love. It's one of your kids. It's one of your friends. It's maybe your spouse. And I want to help you help them, because I think what happens when the world is spinning for someone is they really just need a safe place to process, because you cannot believe the power of just processing what you're feeling with someone. So I would just say, if your kid in the next 24 hours expresses to you, or you can sense that they're feeling anxiety, say, hey, buddy, what's you feeling? How are you feeling right now? Talk to me about it. And be a safe place. You cannot believe how healing it is to just be with someone in the thing that's making them spin. I can't tell you how many times I've called my husband or a good friend and said, hey, can you just listen to me talk for a minute? And I share it. I just share it and I process it right there. And the safety I feel and the way that that begins to heal my mind. And my shoulders relax, my breaths get longer, my teeth relax even, and I feel at ease again just because someone is in it with me.